I don't think it's fascination with bad things that people do. I think it's some fascination with suspense. You see, crime fiction excites you at the beginning, very early on. You want to know what's happening, what's going to happen. And if the writer holds your attention, that continues for a long time. And they want, this is the aim, I think, of every writer, crime or otherwise, they want to hold your attention. They want you to wonder what happens, and it's a page turner. What happens next, and what will happen at the end? I think a lot of it is that. It certainly is with my books, more than the actual crime. I surprise myself sometimes by changing the plot just before I get to the end. If I can change it and perhaps go back and make some small alterations, I can surprise myself, and if I surprise myself, I will certainly surprise the reader. I like to start a book with something that will, a good opening is very important, will excite the reader. And then I may have an outline, but it will never be written down, it will be in my head. But as I go along, I let events unfold from what's gone before. And there again, as I say, when I come near the end, there may be a surprise that I can manage to bring in, and perhaps a second one. And then to wind it up with perhaps, of course, some reference to what happened in the beginning. I think the opening line of a book is very important. Probably the best one I've ever done is to a book of mine called A Judgment in Stone. And it starts, Eunice Parchman killed the Coverdale family because she couldn't read or write.
Ruth divides her time between London and Suffolk. Her writing is also divided. As well as the Wexford novels, she also writes stories which delve deeply into the minds of disturbed and dangerous people. Well, let's talk about those other books, which are suspense stories, under your name, under the Ruth Rendell.
Yeah, in many of them there is no mystery. There is suspense, but there is no mystery. There is none of that whodunit element, which is very present in the Wexford always, of course, but there's none of that. And so that in, for instance, A Judgment in Stone, we are told exactly what happens in the first sentence.
That was quite bold, wasn't it?
Yes, and it, of course, Eunice Parchman killed the Coverdale family because she could not read or write. And it was bold, and one or two people didn't like it, but most people did.
It was unfortunate for Eunice Parchman and for them that the people who employed her and in whose home she lived for 9 months were peculiarly literate. Had they been a family of Philistines, they might be alive today. And Eunice, free in her mysterious, dark freedom of sensation and instinct and blank absence of the printed word.
I know that I want to do that. I want to get into people's minds. I want to try to be how they are and think about how they think and how they act and why. But if I'm successful, I'm glad. But I don't know how I do it. I don't know what I'm doing. And I think this applies to a lot of writers. You want very much to create a real background, a real happening, a thing, and this is the way it must have been, and this is the way this man thought, or I would have thought. But if you're succeeding at it, you don't know. You just hope. You try. And that's all. This may not be very satisfactory to you, but it's the best I can do. Because I don't consciously go and pick on somebody I know. And yet, when we say, no, it's not based on anybody, if it's not based on anybody, what is it? It must have some connection with real people. So I think probably the truth is, I take bits of people that I have known and put them with other people and make a character that way. I'm not aware of it, but if that isn't so, I must be taking them from characters on television, which would be awful.
You yourself, what are your obsessions?
I am an obsessive person, and that is why I can, I think, describe obsessions. But I'm very routine-driven. I do more than I should by the clock, I think. I always get up at the same time. I always start writing at the same time. And I always eat the same food. Well, I don't when I go out and eat, and of course, one eats out quite a lot. But when I'm at home, I always eat the same food. I eat what I like eating, and I eat the same thing every day. Now, that is a bit odd, I think.
Two writers above all others have been credited with redefining the crime novel in this country. Ruth Rendell and P.D. James, who've also been friends for more than 20 years.
There's this huge interest in the sort of dark recesses of the psychopathic mind. I mean, what is interesting to me about your psychopath, if I may say yours.
You may indeed.
You see, you're so different from Patricia Highsmith, who can make her psychopath into a hero or an anti-hero. You never condone, but on the other hand, you don't condemn. What you're trying to do is to understand.
That's
and
true.
To explain.
Yes, yes.
Because I think we are more interested in character and in motive and than we are in fast action, in guns, in bullets.
I'm terrible on weapons. If I've made mistakes, it's always with these guns. I don't have guns anymore. I can't cope with guns. I get them wrong. I think I've got a book on guns. I still can't get the guns right. So I suppose I'm so terribly uninterested in guns.
I had shooting in only one of my books, and therefore I went to do some research with the Metropolitan Police, and I went to one of the police shooting training great halls which they do it, and they gave me the gun, and I had my gun, and they showed me how to do it, and it was most extraordinary. It was so completely functional, and it fitted so right into the hand, and you held it like that, and for 1 second I could see the attraction of being
could you now? I see you. I'm beginning to see you in a completely new light.
Yeah.
Most people would regard you as a very prolific and compulsively prolific writer. Do you ever feel that you'd like to take 2 or 3 years off, or do you feel that the doing of it is the most important thing in your life?
Well, it is what I do. I've been doing that in the mornings for 40 years. And I always do it in the mornings unless I have to do something else, if it's possible. But I feel that I would be confronted by the being at a loose end in the mornings. It would be very strange. You see, I do what I do, and I like it, and it seems to me to be a good thing, and my readers certainly do. So why stop?
I do think about death every day, but it doesn't upset me, it doesn't make me unhappy. I expect I put some of that into my books, because I put something of everything in my books. I've been asked many times why the crime genre is so successful and people respond to it. And it is said that it's because you have chaos, and in the end order comes out of chaos. But that's not really true with my books, because in some of them there's a sort of unfinished situation in which you don't quite know what's going to happen. And I cannot say of mine that the good end happily and the bad unhappily, as Oscar Wilde said, because I don't think they do. My books are either set in the English countryside or else in London. And I know London extremely well, and an American readership will get a picture of contemporary British life and how it changes, and the language, the town, the buildings, everything in it, and how they've changed. And I think they will find that in my books. I'm happy when I write, but I would be very unhappy if I couldn't write again. I think I would write on a desert island.